Thanks, Tom, and I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, hopes for Syrian ceasefire recede amid government shellings. And Syrian refugee recounts military attacks on civilians. And out of Afghanistan, despite deal, U.S. to continue night raids without approval. And European court says Britain can send terror suspects to the U.S. And Wells Fargo ordered to pay $3.1 million for mortgage abuses. And a report says 26 major U.S. companies paid no income tax for 4 years. And lawyer for Pakistani drone victims denied U.S. visa. And a prosecutor says no grand jury for Trayvon Martin shooter George Zimmerman. And George Zimmerman launches defense website. And news flash is he was arrested for second-degree murder so far. Fox criticized for calling neo-Nazis a civil rights group. And police say white shooters confessed to killing black people in Tulsa. And out of Chicago, lawsuit launched over shooting death of unarmed woman by off-duty cop. And a lawyer says autopsy shows Kenneth Chamberlain did not have weapon. And Brazilian president criticizes U.S. monetary policy in White House visit. And Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker privately signs anti-abortion sex education laws. And EPA denies bid to revoke controversial weed killer 2,4-D. GVTV News would like to say views expressed on our news broadcast do not necessarily reflect the views at NCTV Digital Media Center. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, hopes of a United Nations-sponsored ceasefire in Syria are receding as Syrian troops continue to shell the city of Homs and northern village of Maria. The French Foreign Ministry said Syria's promise to implement a ceasefire plan are blatant and unacceptable lie, and as a deadline for Damascus to implement the ceasefire plan crafted by the UN Arab League envoy Kofi Annan ran down, Syria demanded guarantees from the former United Nations chiefs armed insurgents would honor a truce. Rebel-free Syrian army said this ceasefire will only be if convinced that Bashar al-Assad forces have pulled back, and on Monday at least 5 people, including 2 Turkish citizens, were wounded in cross-border fire in Syrian refugee camp in Turkey. Another neighbor of Syria's Lebanon condemned the killings of a journalist there, Ali Shaban, who was a cameraman for Lebanon Al Jadid television channel. And they said he's a martyr for all the media. He's another martyr for all photojournalists of the country. As a television station, we are proud we had a member on our team like him. May God bless his soul. In other news from Syria, Human Rights Watch has released video of a Syrian refugee describing military attacks on civilians. Khalid said, and in front of us they started to beat them with the butt of their Kalashnikovs, and then he started beating their bodies and legs and heads, and they tortured them all, and then the general lieutenant came up and gave the order to open fire on the soldiers dissenting from the Syrian army. They started to shoot at them. There were about 4 soldiers, and each shot about 30 bullets. On Monday, Human Rights Watch released a report called In Cold Blood, Summary Executions by Syrian Security Forces and Pro-Government Militias. This is Tom Porteous of Human Rights Watch. Tom Porteous said, these are very serious abuses. They are violations of international human rights law, and it's a complete shame that this kind of thing is taking place. Some of the incidents we've documented are really quite blood-curdling. U.S. military officials have quietly admitted that U.S. Special Operations Forces will continue to conduct night raids in Afghan homes without the approval of the Afghan government. The mission comes just days after the United States and Afghanistan signed an agreement placing restrictions on raids. Navy Commander John Kirby admitted on Monday U.S. Special Operations Forces can still carry out searches and detain Afghan residents without a warrant from the Afghan government. An European Court of Human Rights has ruled Britain can send 5 suspects to the United States to face terrorism charges. Lawyers for the suspects had argued their human rights could be breached if they were convicted in the United States, but the court decided that sending the men to high-security U.S. prisons would be lawful and that they would not receive inhuman and degrading treatment. Huffington Post is reporting a federal bankruptcy judge in Louisiana has ordered Wells Fargo to pay $3.1 million in punitive damages, one of the biggest fines ever for a mortgage servicing misconduct. Judge Elizabeth Magner characterized Wells Fargo's behavior as highly reprehensible. Magner wrote, "Wells Fargo has taken advantage of borrowers who rely on it to accurately apply payments and calculate the amounts owed, but perhaps more disturbing is Wells Fargo's refusal to voluntarily correct its errors." And a new report by Citizens for Tax Justice has revealed the names of 26 major U.S. corporations that paid no federal income tax from 2008 to 2011. The list includes General Electric, Verizon Communications, Boeing, PG&E, Duke Energy, and Con Ed. A Pakistani lawyer who represents the victims of U.S. drone strikes has been forced to cancel a trip to the United States after the U.S. government failed to grant him a visa. Shahzad Akbar was scheduled to speak later this month at an international drone summit in Washington, D.C. Akbar is co-founder of the Pakistani human rights organization Foundation for Fundamental Rights. He filed the first case in Pakistan on behalf of family members of civilian victims. And he said, "I think people are scared. They're definitely scared. I've seen some people. I've interviewed some neighbors whose next door house was hit. I could see what they were feeling because they're feeling this imminent threat. And they're actually feeling helpless at the same time because there is no other place to relocate because a lot of them have no skills, no education, so they cannot relocate in another part of Pakistan." While Akbar has traveled to the United States in the past, he has not been granted permission to return since becoming an outspoken critic of drone attacks in Pakistan. Special prosecutor investigating the shooting death of unarmed Florida teenager Trayvon Martin has ruled out using a grand jury in the case, meaning her office alone would decide whether to charge the shooter, George Zimmerman, with a crime. And in fact, since this story started, he has been charged with second-degree murder and pending a bail set when he goes to court the next time. Special Prosecutor Angela Corey said her decision should not be considered a factor in the final determination of the case. And George Zimmerman, the alleged killer of Trayvon Martin, has launched his own website in an attempt to raise money for what he described as living expenses and legal defense. This website contains photos of pro-Zimmerman slogans, including a silent rally by Koran-burning pastor Terry Jones and a photo of vandalism Black Cultural Center in Ohio State University where someone spray-painted the words, "Long live Zimmerman." Every page on Zimmerman's website includes this quote from Edmund Burke: "The only thing necessary for a triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." In media news, a Fox affiliate in Florida is facing criticism after it referred to a neo-Nazi group as a civil rights group. In a report from Trayvon Martin's killing, part of the Fox report interview included an interview with Jeff Shope of the National Socialist Movement. Anchor Jennifer Bishram said, "There's another civil rights group in the town, the National Socialist Movement," and Schroep said, "A lot of people in the community, in the white community down there, had been contacting us out of concern for their safety just because of racial tensions." And the anchor asked, racial tensions after 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was shot and killed by George Zimmerman, and Zimmerman is claiming self-defense and has been hiding now for weeks. And Shope said, "We're a white civil rights organization and we go into areas where we're needed and where white citizens need our help." According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, National Socialist Movement has its roots in an original American Nazi party. It is now one of the largest neo-Nazi organizations in the country. The group openly idolizes Adolf Hitler and calls for a deportation of every non-white person in the country. Two white men accused of shooting 5 black people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, killing 3 of them, have reportedly confessed to authorities. Tulsa police said 19-year-old Jake England has admitted to the police that he shot 3 of the victims, and 33-year-old Alvin Watts has said he shot 2 others. Police said the suspects drove through the streets of North Tulsa, a predominantly black neighborhood, and randomly shot pedestrians. Both men were ordered to held on bail for more than $9 million during their first court appearance on Monday. And the family of a 22-year-old woman who was fatally shot last month by an off-duty police officer in Chicago has filed a wrongful death suit. A lawyer for the family of Rikia Boyd said Detective Dante Servin shot Boyd and a man she was with after getting into an argument with the man, 39-year-old Antonio Cross. The lawyer said neither victim was armed. Police originally claimed Cross had pulled a gun, but no gun was found on the scene. Boyd was shot in the back of the head and died a day later. There's a new development in the case of the police killing of 68-year-old Kenneth Chamberlain, the former Marine who was killed in his own home in White Plains, New York, after a medical alert. According to an autopsy report obtained by Juan Gonzalez of the New York Daily News, Chamberlain died from a single bullet that entered his right arm and ripped through both lungs. A lawyer for Chamberlain's family said the autopsy contradicts the police account of his death. Police say Chamberlain was holding a butcher knife when police officers fired 2 shots to stop him, but an attorney for Chamberlain's family said the trajectory of the fatal bullet suggests Chamberlain was neither facing the police nor holding up a weapon. President Obama welcomed Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff to the White House Monday. Obama praised Brazil for its rapid economic growth. President Obama said, "It gives me an opportunity as well to remark on the extraordinary progress that Brazil has made under the leadership of President Rousseff and her predecessor, President Lula, moving from a dictatorship to democracy, embarking on an extraordinary growth path, lifting millions of people out of poverty and becoming not only a leading voice in the region, but also a leading voice in the world." Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff criticized U.S. monetary policy, saying it has harmed Brazil and other developing countries. Rousseff said the U.S. decision to leave benchmark lending rates near zero has created an overload of speculative money that floods into economies like Brazil. Brazilian President Rousseff said such expansionist monetary policies in and of themselves in isolation regarding the fiscal policies untimely lead of depreciation in the value of the currency of developed countries, thus impairing growth outlooks in emerging countries. Brazilian Dilma Rousseff is a former Brazilian guerrilla who was held for nearly 2 years in prison and tortured. And Wisconsin Republican Governor Scott Walker has privately signed a series of controversial bills aimed at curbing access to abortion and sex education. The first bill bans most abortion coverage under policies obtained through a health insurance exchange set to be created under the Obama administration's health care reform law, allowing coverage only for rape, incest, and medical necessity. A second bill requires every woman seeking an abortion to meet privately with the doctor and undergo an exam before procedure so the doctor can ensure she is not being pressured. Doctors who violate the law could be charged with a felony. Third bill requires teachers in school that offer sex education to stress abstinence and says there's no longer need to address contraception. Wisconsin current law requires some instruction on birth control options. Walker signed the bill Thursday but did not announce the move until the next day on Good Friday, when his office released a list of 50 bills he had recently signed. Democrats slammed Walker for signing the law in private and attacking the rights of women. Among the other bill Walker signed was a repeal of the state's Equal Pay Enforcement Act, which gave women and other marginalized groups more power to fight wage discrimination. According to the Wisconsin Alliance for Women's Health, women in Wisconsin make 75 cents for every dollar a man earns. Regulators have discovered some nail polishes found in California salons contain high levels of substances known to cause birth defects despite carrying labels identifying them as being free of certain toxic chemicals. A report due to be released found 10 out of 12 products that claimed to be free of chemical toluene actually contained it, and 4 products contained dangerously high levels. The report, it's messed up. I always smell that stuff when I've been at. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has denied a bid by an environmental group to revoke approval of weed killer D2,4-D, one of the most widely used weed killers in the world. The Natural Resource Defense Council has said that the weed killer may cause cancer, hormone disruption, and other problems, that the EPA had underestimated how much people might be exposed to this chemical. And that's it for World News Today. Now we'd like to thank another one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
No one needs anyone, they don't even just pretend. John is an American. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter and pictures in the blotter, not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department on Sunday. 7:54 a.m., a man from 800 block of Sutton Way reported a man asked for him for money and got angry when he said no. He could not be located. At 9:31 a.m., a caller from 200 block of Colfax Avenue reported a business had been broken into. At 11:09 a.m., a caller from 300 block of Bennett Street reported a physical fight with a man holding a knife to another man's throat. A man was cited on suspicion of carrying a concealed weapon. 11:25 a.m., caller from 100 block of East Berry Hill Drive reported a physical fight. And 5:28 p.m., a caller from 700 block of Sutton Way reported theft of medications from a business. 6:16 p.m., a man from 300 block of Railroad Avenue reported man was driving and drinking. And 7:26 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Park Avenue reported a juvenile hanging out in a dumpster. He could not be located. 7:55 p.m., caller from Memorial Park reported a big flower had been spray painted on a wall. And Monday, 12:53 a.m., a caller from 200 block of Sierra College Drive reported a man sleeping in a car. He was arrested on an outstanding warrant. The Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Sunday, 9:24 a.m., a man from 12,000 block of Robinson Road reported possible death threat via Facebook. He called back at 9:56 p.m. to report death threats by telephone. At 11:43 a.m., a woman from 10,000 block of Quail Creek Road reported her husband hit her and then she hit him back. He then left. At 11:52 a.m., a man from Arrowhead Mine Road reported two dogs attacked him, his child, and his dog. And 12:28 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Riot Dog Road reported possible vandalism with several holes found in a vehicle tire. And 3:37 p.m., a caller from Western Gateway Park reported a family picnic getting out of hand. And 4:31 p.m., a woman from 14,000 block of Brittany Springs Road reported a physical fight with her husband on Friday. She said he was refusing to leave. No crime was found to have occurred. And a caller from Auburn Road reported 4 teenagers at the driving range chipping and damaging the putting green. They had left the property. At 10:49 p.m., a man from 14,000 block of Indian Springs Road reported 2 people on his property that could not be located. And Nevada City Police Department on Sunday, 9:40 a.m., a caller from 300 block of Sacramento Street reported a man in the bushes bothering customers. He was admonished. And 2:06 p.m., a person was cited on suspicion of having an open container in the Pioneer Park. And 6:12 p.m., a caller from 300 block of Broad Street reported vandalism to a vehicle. Look at that poor car. And that's it for the police blotter today. Now we'd like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Christopher's Old World Deli and Catering Company has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Like desserts? They got them. You like international style lunches? They got them. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week. In local news headlines, homicide suspect held to answer on all accounts, and 2 arrested in alleged attempted burglary. And park closure analysis, costs of artifact preservation will eat into potential savings. Today's first local story, Weimar resident Lee Konerth will be held to answer in Placer County Superior Court to 2 counts of murder in the death of his fiancée, Sarah Burr, and her unborn child. The judge also found sufficient evidence to proceed to trial on special allegations of multiple murder and use of a firearm during the murder, as well as charge of being a felon in possession of a firearm. Burr, 29, had been staying off and on at Konerth's home near Weimar on the night she was shot and killed. May 15, 2011, she was there with her 2 daughters, aged 6 and 11. Longtime Grass Valley resident, had graduated from Nevada Union High School in 1999 and had been employed at Golden Empire Convalescent Hospital since 2000. During a 3-day preliminary hearing at the evidence, Konerth's father, Craig Konerth, testified, as did off-duty Auburn police officer Hardesty, who was the first policeman on the scene. In a story by Liz Keller of the Union, 2 Grass Valley men were arrested on burglary charges after Nevada County Sheriff deputies responded to an alarm call at 12,000 block of Loma Rica Drive just before 6 a.m. Saturday. Deputies found a window ajar in a building, said Sheriff Keith Royal. They also found a witness, an employee of another business, who told them he saw a man in the area who told him someone was after him. He was trying to get away. Suspect allegedly was carrying a waste management jacket, which he threw over a fence. Witness said the man then jumped over the fence and took off, the witness told deputies. Deputies located the suspect, identified as Christopher Norman Rex, 26, on the tarmac at the Nevada County Airport. Rex was arrested on suspicion of trespassing, attempted burglary, being under the influence of a controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, and criminal conspiracy. He was booked and released on a $13,000 bail. Deputies also located a suspicious vehicle nearby. The driver, identified as Keith Jason Tully, 25, allegedly said he was there to pick up his buddy, Christopher. Tully allegedly had burglary tools in his possession, including lockpicks. He also allegedly had hydromorphone, methadone, and drug paraphernalia, including syringes and a spoon. He was arrested on suspicion of attempted second-degree burglary, possession of a controlled substance and drug paraphernalia, possession of burglary tools, and criminal conspiracy. He was booked and released on an $11,750 bail. In a story by Matthew Renda, closing state parks with historic significant artifacts may be more difficult and expensive than officials originally anticipated, state officials told the Associated Press. When all this started, I'm fairly sure that we didn't have any exact science on packaging and storage of artifacts, said Roy Stearns, spokesman for the California Department of Parks and Recreations. They knew there would be a cost, but they weren't sure how to accurately estimate it. The Parks Department initially formulated the 70 park closure in an effort to save $22 million in 2 fiscal years, beginning this upcoming July. However, officials are unsure how much of that projected savings will need to be used to move thousands of delicate items to a storage facility in Sacramento. Marilyn Lincoln, supervisor of Sierra District of California State Parks, said members of the staff are working to itemize artifact overseen by the Malakoff-Diggins State Historic Park, which is currently slated to close. If the park closes, we would have to move some of the items to Old McClellan Air Force Base on the outskirts of Sacramento. Lincoln said officials will have a better idea how the potential move will affect Malakoff-Diggins later in the week. Tom Stark, president of Malakoff-Diggins Park Association, estimated that there's innumerable items of historic value in the park that is dedicated to preserving a famed period of California's history. In North Bloomfield, there is a historically accurate general store that is completely stocked with period items, a drugstore, 3 separate cannons that were used in the hydraulic mining efforts, mercury boiled pots, sluice remnants, and countless other items, Stark said. Stark, who is organizing an effort to keep the revenue-generating aspects of the parks open, including the campground and cabins, said communication with state officials has been difficult. He has yet to obtain a solidified numerical goal for keeping the park open. California can't provide a breakdown of operating costs for individual parks, according to the report issued in the March in March by the Legislative Analyst Office. The report also claims the Parks Department failed to account for the cost of packing, shipping, and storing historical valuable items. Malakoff-Diggins was one of the 2 Nevada County parks to be placed on the closure list, the other being South Yuba River State Park, which was salvaged from the list in early February after a comprehensive community effort, especially with the Alden Homestead. This is the first time the Parks Department has received criticism for the manner in which it has undertaken its cost-saving plan. In November 2011, California legislators chastised the department for its manner in which the list was compiled and whether the closures were even logistically possible or financially prudent. It is not satisfying to learn the park closure process consists of 12 unnamed people in the room throwing darts at a wall, said Assemblyman Gerard Huffman out of San Rafael. He was on the Committee on Accountability and Administrative Review for California. More concerning to Huffman are the unintended consequences of shuttering parks, such as opening the state up for potential lawsuits that could end up costing more than closures would save. And that's it for local news today. Now we'd like to thank another one of our underwriters. Oh no, we're going to thank the Union, Amy Goodman, Reuters, and Associated Press for the sourcing of our news. And you for watching. You can watch this broadcast, Comcast Cable Channel, NCTV Channel 11, in Nevada County, 8 a.m., 3 p.m., 7:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, Southern Link 16 in Truckee and Alta Sierra. We're also streamed on the internet, NCTV's Digital Media Center website at NevadaCountyTV.org and GVTV.org. And don't forget Grass Valley Television that plays 24/7 on the net at GrassValleyTelevision.com. We post to Facebook, YouTube, Blip.tv, and many other podcast sites and other types of sites. We have RSS feed and video podcasts on iTunes. Just search under video podcast for GVTV News. Content is controlled by the producer of this newscast, me, and Grass Valley Television is not necessarily the opinion of NCTV Digital Media Center. Grass Valley Television also videotapes local events around Nevada County. For more information, Grass Valley Television at gmail.com and 362-8889. The show is produced by Grass Valley Television of Royal County's television network. And sorry about yesterday, we had a glitch, and tomorrow should be Friday.